Welcome back to the 12-step mini-series on how to beat the bloat and get rid of the muffin top for good, and why it matters in the long run, why these steps are important to optimize your health, prevent chronic illness, and make you feel better now and long term. Now, my name is Mirthe. I'm a functional medicine practitioner, and today is video number 7. If you are looking to get the full series, you can click the link below and there's a free download to an ebook that has all the 12 steps, and you can just do it all and then let me know how it went. But today we'll be talking about step number 7, how your gut microbiome and something called candida might be one of the underlying triggers that you just can't seem to budge, that layer of belly around the waist while you're constantly bloated and just feeling not that well. So most of you have heard of the gut microbiome by now. We all have bacteria and certain fungus inside our gut. That's important. We need them to break down foods, to help us digest foods, to make certain nutrients and vitamins. But it's all about the right balance and the right type and kind. Now, a lot of us, because of antibiotic use or because of eating tons of processed sugary foods or drinking lots of alcohol or being really stressed out, all of these factors contribute to an imbalance in the gut bacteria. Now, very commonly, we have an overgrowth of something called candida, which is a fungus that if it takes over, it has been linked to lots of problems. So it is a little bit like food intolerances before, but now it's an actual infection where it's this chronic low-grade infection that triggers inflammation, because that is what our body does when there is an invader. Now, if there are the wrong kind of bugs in there, or if there's candida albicans, this fungus that is overgrowing and taking over inside our gut, our immune system keeps fighting it, triggering inflammation to get rid of it. If you remember from the previous video in food intolerances, when we are inflamed, our body goes into an insulin resistant state. And when that happens, we are more likely to put any of our fat that is floating around the body, any spare nutrients, in a layer of fat. Even if we're not overeating, it can still go and create this layer of fat around the belly, because that's what the body does when we are slightly inflamed and insulin resistant. So you might not even be overeating. That might not be the case. Your bugs might be the wrong type and they might be triggering that layer of belly fat. Now, what can you do about it? Ideally, you find out what the bugs are, because there's slightly different strategies, whether it is candida or whether there's some kind of bad bacteria in there, or whether you just don't have enough of the good guys in there. They're kind of slightly different things. But as a general rule of thumb, if you don't want to do testing right now because you can't afford it, then just try a few simple steps. A is lower your sugar intake, like we said in step 1, but it will also improve if candida is a problem, because candida is a fungus, it thrives off sugars. So you want to lower the intake, so you kind of starve it off a little, but usually that's not quite enough. So you also want to add in some strong herbs that have been shown to have antimicrobial effects. Things like oregano, rosemary have all been shown to be really strong to fight off infections. Also, if you have just money for one supplement, then maybe try berberine. Berberine has been shown to support blood sugar, which in step number 1, video number 1, we already talked about how that is really important for your belly fat and our fight against it, but also has been shown to kill off faulty bacteria, overgrowth of bacteria and yeast inside the intestinal tract. Now, the other thing is that oftentimes we have something called SIBO, where we have the right kind of bacteria potentially, but in the wrong part of our digestive tract, in our small intestines, where they should be in our large intestines. Now, SIBO is short for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So that means that we have maybe the right kind of bacteria, but they're in the wrong place. And that can lead to bloating, even if you eat healthy foods like fiber-rich foods, vegetables, things like artichokes. They will trigger bloating because they're being fermented. If that's the case, if it's really not going away, you want to work with an experienced practitioner to really hit at that. But an easy strategy is to include some more intermittent fasting, like we said in the previous video, eat some more bitter foods, and just help your digestive system that way. All these herbs will help kill it off as well. Another problem with these bugs inside the gut is that we talked about food intolerances in the video before against healthy foods. Often, or usually, when there are food intolerances against healthy foods, then there's usually a problem in the gut lining, because normally we eat something, let's say an avocado, and our body breaks it down. And only when it is really small can it pass through the gut lining into our bloodstream. And then our immune system sees it, says, oh, yeah, I know this, fine, no problem. Now, if there's a problem in our gut, wrong kind of bacteria, yeast overgrowth, then our gut might start to become a little bit permeable. They call it leaky gut as well, but it's actually like it's a thing where the lining is just the pores, they're a little bit wider. So bigger particles of the same foods can pass through into the bloodstream, and then the immune system doesn't recognize them anymore. And then it starts to mount an immune response, like we talked about in the previous video. So there's other reasons as well why we really want to heal our gut, make sure we have the right bugs in there. Now, easy steps are, like we said before, and then on addition to that is belly breathing. Now, we spoke about in parasympathetic and sympathetic, the fight or flight or the rest, digest, and heal nervous systems in the third video of the series. Now, what that matters for your gut health is that the main nerve of the rest, digest, and heal nervous system is called vagus nerve, and it goes into our gut. Now, if we are constantly in that fight or flight mode, thinking we're running away from a tiger, our body will send all of the nutrients and the blood flow to our muscles to run away, not to the other organs that are maybe not as important in that moment. Digesting, having a healthy hormonal system, all these things are not that important to survive in that moment. But that also means that our gut doesn't digest properly, that it doesn't send the right signals to keep a strong immune system to fight the bad guys in there and support the gut lining. So you want to make sure that you do some belly breathing, do things tying back into that number 3 section, do some stress supportive strategies, meditation, belly breathing to support your digestion as well from that angle. And then last but not least, eating more fiber-rich foods. But like I said before, if you have SIBO, you have the overgrowth in the wrong type, in the wrong part of your gut, then that could actually potentially sometimes trigger more irritation, bloating, and gas. So if that's you, then you might want to address it as if it was SIBO. But in general, you want to try and get more of the good guys in. You can take probiotics, but you can also just eat more fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, and you can eat some more fiber-rich foods. You can have some apples, you can eat some potatoes that have been cooked and then cooled down, because then it turns into something called resistant starch, which feeds your gut bacteria rather than your fat cells. So there's lots of little tricks. I have a little summary of all these tricks in the PDF in that free ebook that I have in the link below. So download that and let me know if you have questions in the comments below. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next video on the next topic in our mini series.